created a vacuum in there. Now let's see what it looks like behind the barn. Well, I reckon I got a jumpy thing. It didn't go off so cold it froze up. The camera must have jumped all over the place. Just didn't go off. Somewhere under there is a wood pile. Now you can see it's 5:48 Sunday. This morning I showed you what was up around the barn, so forth. I got on the farm tractor with the snow blade, came here and I worked for 2 hours out here, fixing a place out here so I could get the wood and so forth and get out of the garage. And I gave up over here. I just flat gave up. Tractor's not big enough to move that. That snow's 4 foot deep out there. And I started in behind the barn. It took me an hour or so to cut through there. So I got a road now down through there, and I come out down there at a flat place, and I worked all day long up till about 2:30, I think it was. Finally reached the highway. So tomorrow I'll try it again.
Slippery. If you don't have four-wheel drive with chains, you shouldn't be out. You shouldn't be out, period.
Okay. And you should be getting back inside as well to get warm. Okay, thank you. Kimberly Hicks reporting live. Grayson County not only had to grapple with heavy snow, but 2 devastating fires. Yesterday afternoon, there was an explosion at the Nautilus plant on Powerhouse Road in Independence. Firefighters are speculating that a propane line may have ignited when the roof collapsed. Heavy snow may be to blame for the cave-in. Authorities say fire destroyed the building. More than 250 people work at the exercise equipment plant. That explosion even damaged a nearby shopping center filled with the maroon travelers. Good evening, Connie.
Hi, Kim. Now in Witt County, they're reporting about 28 inches of snow in some places, and today it looks like most of that snow was on the interstate. Now, that area is really a haven for truck stops, restaurants, and hotels, but today it was pretty hard work just trying to make it to dry land.
Every 20 feet there's a car in the ditch, tractor trailer in the ditch, jackknife, everywhere, all the way. It's Fort Lauderdale.
Many of these trucks and carloads of college students have been stranded overnight, unable to go forward on snow-covered I-81, unable to reach the shutdown I-77, unable to even get off the interstate.
It's just been terrible. We got down by the Virginia Welcome Center, and there was just, literally hundreds of cars everywhere.
Life on the interstate can also be a little dull, entertaining small children and rereading last week's news.
Our immediate goal is just to get up to the exit 73 here and sit down and have a bite to eat.
But on the other side of the highway, hotels are booked, restaurants have closed, many are simply out of food. They have a choice to feast on snack foods.
It's last night, and we've been eating little odds and ends that we can find. I mean, there's nothing left at the hotel that we're staying at. They have the little machines, and there's nothing left in those.
2 shelters have been set up for out-of-towners, with more than 100 people spending the weekend on cots, just happy to be off the road. Now, Kim, there are also 2 shelters set up in the Fort Chiswell area for the perhaps hundreds of residents that are still without power. Now, as far as the travelers go, officials say they may be here for a while. State police say both I-81 and I-77 are shut down for the night both ways around Witt County. So they're recommending that everyone stay off the roads unless it's an absolute emergency. And even then they're saying use both your four-wheel drive and your snow chains.
Okay, and why did they have such a hard time keeping the roads clear?
Well, it all started on Friday when some of the motorists on the interstates just stopped dead in their tracks and left their cars on and along the interstate, so the snowplows can't get past all those abandoned vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Tom Stevens reporting live from Blacksburg.
Deep south, power outages, impassable roads, and a snowbound Atlanta airport caused problems into the evening. In Rome, Georgia, it was not just a natural disaster. The storm offered cover for looters.
There's been a lot of business that may or may not have been burglarized or broken into. The owner of his business have not been able to get to him yet.
This is Birmingham. At least 4 died in Alabama. More than 24 died in Florida. Around Tallahassee, where tornadoes and high winds tore homes apart, more people were still missing. Search teams worked on.
It's really, seeing the dogs that are still out working, it's devastating.
The Tampa coastline was buffeted by wind and flooding. Farmers inland were concerned about continued cold weather. And further south, it was all too familiar. The storm was difficult enough in many parts of the country, but in Dade County, Florida, high wind blew salt to the already open wound left by Hurricane Andrew. At this tent city, for example, people homeless from the hurricane had to be evacuated yet again.
And once you, think you can get up on the feet again, it happened again, it's kind of, emotional. And it's just tough.
The Red Cross shelters are open again. Most of the damage in South Florida was emotion, a reminder that another hurricane season is only a few months off. But in South Carolina, there was good news when 100 stranded campers were rescued by the National Guard. Here, the storm will be remembered as an adventure instead of a terrible tragedy. Reed Galen, CBS News, Miami.
Washington, D.C. was spared most of the damage, but not the inconvenience caused by the storm. Randall Kingston is standing by on the wall this morning with more. Good morning, Randall.
Good morning, Paul. The nation's capital is slowly coming back to normal, but most government workers today are expected to take advantage of their personal leave time. While their offices will be open, those workers won't be here as the hard, cold job of digging out moves ahead. Unclogged sites.
Well, it's warming up this Monday morning. It's up to 10 now. This is as cold as I've ever seen it this late in March. Only 1 week from spring.
We'll process them all immediately as soon as they're ready. They ask.
Well, I got a lot of work to do out there today.
26-degree temperature, but they take a four-wheel drive back to the White House.
All cold air streaming up across the northern plain, very cold air, and then out to the west. You recall also in the beginning of the week we had a storm across the central Rockies that brought some of that energy out. You get the three of them together, hooked up with the jet stream and brought it straight up the coast, and that's how you got the blizzard of 1993. Let's talk about what's going on today around the country. Digging out, you're going to see sunshine up and down the east coast, but look at that down in Florida. The high will be in the 50s, just about for the entire state. Some more moisture building up down through the south. Also, you're seeing cold air coming up across the north. Southwest is very, very nice today, all right? That's a quick look at the national forecast this morning.
Well, I've been out since 8:30 this morning, scraping the roads. You see that snow piled up all the way from starting right behind the garage here, all the way down there. Well, I'd say about 100 feet long. It went from 3 feet deep to just about 5 feet deep. And a lot of that I drug over the hillside. Just wasn't no place to put it. Now the sun's out. It's been out most of the day. Tomorrow it's supposed to be out again. I drug it off up there, and the sun got to it today, and it has really done a good job. My wood pile was covered up. I pulled the snow away from that, and then the sun did the rest. So about Wednesday, I believe all of the road will be gravel showing. Anyhow, we're open all the way down to the highway. My road's better shape than the Route 730. It's almost impassable down there. It made one lane down through the middle, and when you meet a car, somebody's got to go off the road. Well, that's enough of the snow. How many times can you get a full picture of snow and you still got snow on top and down? Oh well. Over and out.
But many of us realize it'll be several more days before we're finished dealing with this once-in-a-lifetime storm. Clearly, points south and west of Roanoke were the hardest hit in our area. Road crews worked this morning in the New River Valley battling sub-freezing temperatures on top of mounds of ice and snow. Thousands of students are faced with at least one more day off from school, perhaps even more. And many of those without power are beginning to have their electricity restored. In all, this was the storm that many will compare future storms with because of record snow, record winds, and record cold temperatures. Here's the very latest we have on the storm now. First, Governor Wilder announced here in Roanoke this afternoon that he plans to declare Virginia a disaster area. The governor will make his recommendation to President Clinton to help free up some federal disaster relief funding. The governor got an aerial look at the hardest hit parts of southwest Virginia this afternoon. One report indicated that snowdrifts had stranded more than 1,200 travelers along I-77 and I-81. Strong winds have helped create snowdrifts 5 feet high. Now, traffic did begin to move a bit more freely this afternoon, but Governor Wilder says the storm's impact has been devastating.
Our total costs are hard to come by. We don't know what the final tab is going to be, but we're now looking through Wednesday at cost we know to approximate some $12 million at the state levels.
The governor flew with his Richmond staff and the Virginia Army National Guard. He said he was pleased that Virginia seemed well prepared for the storm and was not as hard hit as neighboring states.
Now, the Roanoke Regional Airport, like others up and down the East Coast, has been paralyzed by the bad weather, and today airport officials expected to begin to see the impact of other airports finally getting some flights off the ground.
Hundreds of stranded travelers are finally arriving at the airport, and our own Mark Thoma is live there with the very latest. Mark, how are things today?
Well, Callie, John, things are slowly getting back to normal here at the Roanoke Regional Airport. Since early this morning, flights have been arriving and departing out of the airport. The major problem now is the runway lights. Crews have been working through the day to clear the snow away from the runways. The 3315 runway lights, that's the runway that lines up with Valley View Mall on the south. Now, that runway has been closed, and planes have been using the 624 runway. Later tonight, planes are going to begin using that 3315 runway because the runway lights on 624 are still buried in the snow. Now, they say if there will be a delay tonight, it will be while one runway is still being cleared of snow from the runway lights, and after the sun has fallen, they won't be able to use the 624 runway. There was a little bit of problem today, mainly with planes coming in and out of Pittsburgh. That airport apparently is not back to normal yet, but the airport director of operations told me that all the rest of the airports in the east are open now and accepting and letting planes leave there. So that apparently is not the problem. There's still a lot of people inside the airport here that are waiting for planes, waiting for passengers, and waiting for planes to come in from those other airports downline where the planes may have had a hard time getting out of. Obviously, that's a major problem now, as a lot of airports around our area are still experiencing delays, and that, of course, has a domino effect on the Roanoke Regional Airport.
We've heard some rumors of additional precipitation this week.
Yes, we have. We are looking at maybe a little rain or snow coming in late tomorrow night into Wednesday. This storm, though, that'll be coming in will be nothing like the storm of a lifetime. That's how we've been billing it, and that's what it turned out to be. In our area, we saw between 8 inches of snow, which was down south side toward Danville, the southern part of Pittsylvania County, toward Halifax County, up to around 35 inches of snow. That occurred around Bent Mountain and some of the higher elevations through the New River Valley. Now, we saw 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts in a few locations. Now, the storm, aside from our area, set record low pressure, and that's how we judge how powerful this storm was. This storm was stronger than many hurricanes, including Hurricane Hugo, in terms of its barometric pressure. This morning we felt the record low temperatures, also record snowfalls all the way from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada. The storm was vast, it was huge, and it was everything we expected, and in fact a little bit more. Well, that storm is long gone in its wake. Now we have the cold conditions, but clear skies. That helps at least clear some of the roadways. When you get a little patch of blacktop showing, the sun can beat down on that dark blacktop, and that starts to spread out then in the heat, and we get some of that snow melted away. But couple of parts to the next storm system. It's going to be coming at us in a couple of different pieces, the moisture coming from the south, the energy coming from the north, but it won't have nearly the power anywhere close to the power of this last storm. Your temperatures now actually are being influenced to some degree by the snow cover that we're seeing. 35 in Lynchburg. It's also 35.
The Snowbird Report is brought to you by CMT Sporting Goods, Old Salem Furnishing, Stop and Boot Store.
Past Pulaski, and the rest look more like a moving parking lot today, moving slowly. Accidents and icy conditions there slowed traffic to a snail's pace, and one family trying to head home to North Carolina called it quits today after spending last night in their car with their 4-month-old baby.
While we were at a standstill, and she cried a few times. Had to get her out and pat her outside in the freezing cold weather, but she did okay.
The Hoffmans thought their trip from Kentucky would take about 6 hours, and now it looks like it will have taken them about 4 days when it's all over. There's new confusion over those last 24 Michigan campers who've been lost in the Great Smoky Mountains on the Tennessee-North Carolina border. Earlier this afternoon, Tennessee authorities said they had found the remaining hikers, but just about a half hour ago, the Tennessee governor's office issued a statement indicating one group had been counted twice, meaning 8 hikers are still unaccounted for.
One 20-year-old Blacksburg man can appreciate firsthand what being up on the trails meant this past weekend. Jeff Allen Jr. set out on Friday with a friend, Stephen Falls, and they'd hoped to be in the Smoky Mountains today, but neither of them realized just how serious this storm was going to be. And by Friday night, they'd hiked into the North Carolina mountains about 15 miles. Jeff joins us live by telephone now to tell us how he and Stephen made their way out. Jeff, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine.
All right, thanks for joining us today. We understand you tried coming down from the mountain in the height of this storm. What was that like?
Roughly when we left Albert Mountain, we had come out into a severe wind more than anything. The snow was drifting real bad, and travel was extremely slow.
Were there other people in the area, or were you pretty much alone?
We knew of hikers behind us and hikers ahead of us, and we knew of 3 that had already come to safety. As far as being on that mountain, we were definitely alone.
That's got to be a pretty frightening feeling, isn't it?
It wasn't too bad. We pretty much stuck together, Steve and Bob Baggett and myself, so we just, like a team, came through.
Now, how did you meet up with Bob? He was a retired Marine, I understand, correct?
Yes, ma'am. He's a captain, retired captain in the Marine Corps. He just happened to be on the trail at the same time we did.
Well, that turned out to be a nice accompaniment, I'm sure. Now, how did you get through the night? You were there for one night, is that correct?
Well, we were there for 2 nights.
2 nights.
Friday and Saturday. The first night we were in a shelter. So we built a pretty large fire and tipped the picnic table over and used a reflector to reflect back into the shelter. The second night, we had walked 7 hours and only covered 4 miles. So we decided that a snow pit, which is where you dig a hole in the snow and put in a tent. We had a 2-man tent. We put it in there. We insulated it and spent the second night in the tent before we finally made it to civilization the next day.
Some quick thinking now. Obviously, these weren't things you had planned on doing or even anticipating having to do on this trip, I'm sure.
I don't know if it would go with snow. Probably it's more like sleet or freezing rain maybe on the way for late tonight, but it will change over to all rain. So at the moment, it looks like the changeover will be early enough in the morning, like in the early morning hours, that it wouldn't affect your drive to work any more than what has been going on the last couple of days, but we'll be watching the situation pretty carefully. For the moment, mostly it's rain headed toward us over parts of Ohio, through Kentucky and Tennessee, then back across Alabama, Mississippi, and also down over the Carolinas and Georgia. Now, one thing to take note here, where most of this rain is falling, a lot of that is not over any kind of snowfield at this time. The storm was predominantly from where that line of rain is now to the east. The snowfield is going to act as its own weather source. It's going to modify the air mass considerably, so once that precipitation begins to fall, it's going to fall along that air that's chilled near the surface, so that's why we may see some of that sleet developing tonight. Clouds came in during the day today. They've now overspread just about all of us, and the clouds will be thickening up as we go through the evening hours. In terms of your temperatures, they are all above freezing at this time. Lynchburg is at 46, Danville 49 degrees, and Blacksburg, one of the cooler spots, at 41. Roanoke, we have cloudy conditions, and your current reading is 42, humidity 45%. Falling barometer south wind at 12. The high today was 49, just missed a record low this morning. All right, your forecast tonight, a rain and sleet mixture, eventually changing to all rain, 33 for the overnight low, and then tomorrow the rain will be ending during the day, and a high temperature of 45. Rain developing south side tonight in 35. Tomorrow looking at rain ending during the day in 49. And in the New River Valley, rain and sleet, maybe a couple snow flurries mixed in 32. And then tomorrow, rain changing to light snow during the afternoon in 42. And for West Virginia, rain sleet mixed tonight in 32. The rain changing back over to snow by tomorrow afternoon, and a high temperature of around 40. This is not a big storm by any stretch of the imagination. The only reason it's noteworthy is because of all the stuff we've had outside recently, but we should get through this one.
Well, this is Friday morning again. Been 1 week since the big blizzard, but there's a lot of snow left where it drifted in, got deep. Otherwise, it's gone. Still a little snow on my road going down to the highway, but not a whole lot. It's passable. And everything's hungry. Rabbits, all sorts of birds and everything come out here. I got cracked corn put out this morning. Oh yeah, and it was 10 degrees this morning. It's gone up, well, it looks like about 19. It'll get up, it might get 45 today, I don't know. Keep breaking the records about every night for this time of the year. Oh, this is the 19th of March. Should be done planted potatoes and onions and all that stuff. Oh yeah, there's Boots's private exit and entrance. Works too. And it can be locked both ways. Or it can be made so she can get in but can't get out and things like that. Well, there's still some snow piled up. You can see that came off a road, but the sun has done a wonderful job of getting rid of it. So glad. This is not my type of snow anyhow. It's hard on even riding a four-wheeler out in this snow. Speaking of a four-wheeler, there she sits. Maxine, here's that varmint you gave us. Here it is, 19 degrees. She's out there trying to catch a bird. Caught one yesterday. I believe that got away.